Hello once again, I am Mario the Artisan Rogue, and this is a comparison video today between three tools: the Kickstarter ECD T-Mag, the Engineer DR27, and the Kobalt Mini Socket. We're going to be covering design, build, utility, materials, function, feasibility, cost, and handiness. Made for similar purposes and utilities, these three prove to be very different, and this is a video just to overview these three tools. They could go in your toolbox at Artist Alley, your truck, your home, whatever. The Kickstarter T-Mag is made of hard anodized black aluminum, and it is a very striking looking tool. In fact, that is the reason I was drawn to it and the reason I dropped $69 on this thing. It is beautiful looking. The Lowe's Kobalt socket set is an old standard for me. I have had it for almost a decade, maybe even longer. It's never failed me. I've always loved it. And in doing this review, I discovered some new aspects about it that I had not really paid attention to before. Now, the Engineer DR27 ratchet, the reason why I made this video. First of all, once again, the graphic design and overall construction of the tool is top notch. The assembly and build of the DR27 is really robust. Even for such a small package, the bits are tightly held within. Everything about this, from the clicks to the ratcheting action to the form and fit of the lanyard hole, everything is just quality when you're holding this thing. And I know that I seem like I'm gushing a lot, but there's a reason why this company rates so highly with me. So let's go ahead and take a look at the tools. I'm going to go ahead and remove the Kobalt, seeing as how it doesn't have any bit onboard storage. 6 bits come with the T-Mag, 2 with the DR27. The oddball part is one of the T-Mags is on top, which is not exactly pocket friendly, but that's okay. The 2 that are on the DR27 fit snugly, and I mean snugly, in the handle. I don't mean that in a bad way. It was a little difficult for me to get out at first, and I can see where these teeth might wear down later, but right now they're fantastic, they're perfect, not a problem there. There's a nice oxide coating on the 2 bits you get with it, very nice. No sharp unfinished edges or anything like that. The bits that come with the T-Mag are a little different. They're fine. They're probably the kind that you would expect to maybe buy at Harbor Freight or something like that. You know, not that they're secondhand, not that they have this used feeling, but there's just something off about them. Now, as I was taking them out of the handle, this is the first moment I started to notice that something was a little bit off, and I'll get to that later in the video. The overall quality is fine. They can do the job, I imagine. They look nice, and they're clearly made out of a carbon steel of some sort. As noted earlier, the Kobalt tool came with 9 bits, but there was nowhere to store them. I didn't get a storage sleeve or a box or anything with it. And over the years, it's just been something where when I take them somewhere, I find something to put them in. So now I want to go ahead and jump into the features and other aspects. This was one of the most difficult reviews to do. I'm going to have a bunch of subtitle notes down there that you can look at while I kind of ramble on and discuss what's going on here. This was really cool seeing how this worked and how small the overall profile was. 18 millimeters with a bit in it, with the bits that came with it. Of course, that changes if we put something else in there. But this was so refined and so well thought out. Out of the 3, this one absolutely would be able to get into some deeper areas and really work. Now, I'm going to take a couple of Milwaukee bits and show you how they work in there. Now, this should seem like common sense, right? You stick it in there, it's going to hold, it's going to work, it's going to ratchet just fine. And there was really no problem. These 2 fit in there. I know this one is used normally for a drill, but I just wanted to show that that was holding up with stability just fine. Now, the T-Mag has various holding points all over this thing. There's 2 on the top that have magnets, there's the center one, and then one down at the end, and then there's the 5 holding areas for when you're not using those parts. Now, here's something. Look at that. As I'm putting that in there, the first go in there, all right, and then here's where things start going wrong. I couldn't figure out what was going on. I thought, okay, maybe it's just, gravity, me leaning the tool over. I wasn't trying to be too harsh about it. The magnets are seriously strong enough to hold it in place, but it was a little awkward putting it back. And I thought, if I'm on any sort of job or doing something, I don't want to lose one of these bits just because they weren't getting in there. And the more you shake it, it's a little dodgy. It doesn't really work for me in that regard. And I thought, okay, well, that's unfortunate. And then I really started noticing something else. The magnets aren't level. These are supposed to be straight up and down. And I didn't get very good footage of that. I couldn't really get the footage in there, but the magnets weren't level, and that's a problem. Not an immediate one, but something I could see being an issue down the road. Here's the other part. Now, if you watch their production video, their promotional video, they hide the fact, at least it appeared to me anyway, that the finger was kind of holding these things in place, but this is nonsense to me. I don't need that. I need the same function that I was getting on Engineer's tool to hold the bit in place. There is a little bit of ratcheting action, but there's no selector switch on this. You have to flip the tool over to get it to go the opposite way. And either way that you're putting a bit in there, there is nothing holding it in place. Now you do get this extender that is square that fits into the bit hole, which is not square. It's a hexagon. It's a little shaky, even though it holds the bit in there. Yeah, not a fan of that. Not a fan of that at all. And I imagine if I used this and torqued on it for quite a while, I might end up stripping the damn thing. And I know the aluminum is pretty strong, but considering where this thing stores and how it's supposed to work, which in the video they showcase, hey, put your bit in here and then put it together this way so that you can ratchet it down. I am not a fan of this. I think it's a great idea, but this isn't why I wanted this. I wanted something that would be able to work and do that, hold the bit in place, but not need the extension to do all of that. The magnets hold this in place here, and it is billeted in a very nice way, but I could see where damage would prevent it from working. The other bits, same story. Put it in there, yeah, it fits, but ultimately, that's what happens. Now they do store, and they're a little more solid in these, but it still defeats the purpose for me. And I'm not even trying to be a naysayer about this. I really am shocked that for the price there wasn't anything holding this in. It doesn't make sense. Now Kobalt did this in a unique way, and I never appreciated it over the last 10 years. See, that went in there, but notice the back. See the handle? It's for real fine tuning, for turning it. But there's also something else about these bits that I hadn't really noticed before, and I'll show you right here. If you look close, there's those small flanges and notches on the side that lock, and then a ball bearing right there that also deals with keeping it in there. Now the wider screwdriver bit on top just has the ball bearing, and there's a reason for that. When you're setting these in, anything else that doesn't have it is just gonna fall right on through, and that's fine. But I was able to make these fit into the DR27 just fine, because it has that catching plate in the back. But there's also this. If you look on the inside, it is the only one of the three that has this ring of spring steel that holds a bit in. And there's such a satisfying click when you hear it. Now, I wanted to try something different and go ahead and look at these because I had a hunch. And sure enough, I pushed that in there and oh my God, it stuck. It actually held because of the flanges and the ball bearing. And I was able to do that on both sides of this thing. This was great. This was wonderful. And I thought, oh, okay, well, if I really needed to, I could probably cobble something together from this. If I really wanted to kind of make an ultimate tool out of this stuff, except it's wiggly on top. It doesn't really store there, which got me to thinking, well, how is it in the extension? And it's wiggly there too. That's because the end has that handle bit on it. It's not a full hexagonal. And it fits here too. Look at this. See where the flange catches? That's amazing. And it holds it. This is so much better than holding it in place with my thumb. And that's something I could trust that I could probably work with. And that came from a $10 tool with parts. So then I got to thinking, well, what would happen with the wide one? Is this gonna fit? And look at this. That's insane. It looks like it was made for it. That is wonderful. So then I got really excited and I thought, okay, well, that fit there. How's it gonna fit up here? Wiggly. So not perfect there, not perfect there. Now let's try what's supposed to be the star of this, the center point one. And I get it in there, jimmy it around a little bit. Let me get it to the side here so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Yeah, it fits in there. It's locked in there, it's not falling out. Tapped it pretty hard, not coming out. And it ratchets just fine. Now, I didn't do any torque tests or anything on this. This was just to showcase the overall look and application of the parts in there, but it works on both sides just fine. This one, I think it took a second here to get it aligned. Yeah, it snapped in. And that was my user error. That had nothing to do with the bit or the tool. I was just being a little bit weird on how I was jiggling it in there. I'm using the word jiggle too much in this video. So then I got to thinking, okay, well, there are these spare bits down here, and I know these are longer, but I just want to know if they fit. Of course they fit, because they're going to fit. They're bits. The problem is they stick out just like the bit on top does. So unfortunately, the tool isn't wide enough to house them, but it's still kind of a cool idea. So now that I've had a chance to kind of show you all of the things they can do and what the general aesthetics and utilities of them are, let's talk about them as a whole. I was really disappointed. This is a pretty sturdy concept as far as the physical materials and things. The pry bar is okay. There's a lot of things with it that could be really great. The idea isn't terrible. It's just not executed to the best, in my opinion, of what could have been done. And again, I'm not coming at this as a tool designer or anything. I'm coming at this as somebody who would want to use this as a daily sort of tool. It just doesn't work. My old standard here, the Kobalt, this has already been proven. I've been using it off and on for the better part of a decade, and occasionally, like that little nub there where you switch it to go left or right, that will snag in a pocket from time to time, but it's nothing terrible at all. It's fine. The construction is super simple. It works for what it's supposed to do. It's wonderful. The DR27 probably edges out the Kobalt only because it has onboard bit storage for 2, which is plenty. The other advantage the DR27 has is that most bits will be able to fit within it without falling through. Out of the 3, it's the only one that has the capacity to do so. And each one is unique in why the application was done as it was. I also like the fact that the left-right callout is out there and visible, where if you're looking to work on this, yes, memory can serve you well if you use the tool over and over again, but when you're getting it, it's nice to kind of have some instructions and just clues as to how to use the tool when you're using it. And I'm talking about your average person that doesn't want anything super extravagant but wants something that's going to work. That's the whole point of this. So the DR27 is looking like my top choice. Now I want to show you something. This is the bag that Kickstarter sent. It was like an unlocked reward, and I was expecting something that, yeah, would fit the T-Mag, but this also looks like it could fit my lunch. I joke, but look at the size of this thing. This was not made for the tool. It swims in the bag. If you put it away, you're not going to find it. This is not something I want on my belt. This makes no sense. I will show you. This is a small pouch I got some years ago. I've used it for multiple things, not using it for anything now. It's 3 inches wide, but this won't fit. The pry bar is too big. So it's an odd length as well. I think it's 3.27 or something. I have to look at the measurements again. At any rate, here are the ratings. Thank you so much for watching the video. This has been a lot of fun. There's some more pros and cons to each one of them listed here, as you can see. Ultimately, in the end, yes, the DR27 comes out on top for me. It edges out the Kobalt, which even though that served me well for 10 years or so, the DR27 has a bit more capacity and a bit more portability and just a bit more quality on its side that I really enjoy. But the Kobalt has a wonderful set of tools, and the T-Mag had potential, but unfortunately didn't pan out. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I appreciate it. See you in the next video.